Hey, fifth graders, we've been talking about European colonization of North America. We finished talking about New Spain, and we talked about how the Spanish colonized after exploring places like Mexico, Florida, the Caribbean, and called their colony New Spain. And we talked about their interest in gold, God, and glory, and their unfair treatment of the Native Americans and their attempt to convert them to Christianity. We've been talking a little bit today about New France. Now, we know New France was further north, in the area today we would call Canada, maybe down around the Great Lakes and throughout the Mississippi River area. Please take notes in your chart next to where you took your notes about New Spain. So why did the French decide to colonize? Well, they were searching for that northwest passage, that secret passage that would get them to Asia to get the goods that they want, silk, spices, gemstones. So they sent explorers like Cartier and Verrazano to look for that, but they did not find it. Instead, they found the St. Lawrence River and they found Canada. So they claimed land, and their intent was to also spread Christianity like the Spanish, but they're going to do it in a slightly nicer way than the Spanish did. Also, they don't find the gold that they want, but they instead find fur. I know you're thinking fur, right? And I've seen a thing recently that called it soft gold, which I thought was kind of funny, because beaver fur in particular was very popular for hats and coats back in Europe. So if they could catch or trap a lot of beavers, they could make a lot of money. Remember, take your time with these notes. If you need to pause and just write stuff down, feel free. Where in North America did they colonize, the French? Well, their colony is going to be called New France. Part of it will be called Canada, which ironically means little village from the Native Americans, although today Canada is the second largest country in our entire world. They're going to settle along the St. Lawrence River in places like Quebec and Montreal, and then eventually fur trappers will move out into the Mississippi River area, all the way down into Louisiana, and they will found the city of New Orleans. We'll talk more about in class why it's important to control that Mississippi River area for trade. What was the French's relationship like with the natives? Well, actually pretty good. Really, the French realized early on if they didn't work with the natives, they wouldn't survive. So they worked with the Huron and the Algonquin Indians and formed a partnership that I call HAF, Huron, Algonquin, Love, French. And the French actually learned to adopt the native ways of living in order to survive. They use canoes. They use snowshoes. They don't necessarily try to force the natives to be like them, kind of like what the Spanish did to their natives, but instead they try to live like the natives did. The French are later going to fight against the Iroquois. Remember the name Iroquois from second grade? Because the Iroquois are the enemy of the Huron and the Algonquin. We'll talk more about that in class. Last box. Did the settlers of New France challenge the royal government? No, there really weren't that many French settlers. It was very hard to attract people to want to come live in New France. It was really cold. It was really harsh. And the land of New France by the late 1700s is going to be taken over by the British or the English during what's called the French and Indian War. And we'll learn more about that later in the spring when we start to talk about the American Revolution. So remember, you're filling in your note sheet. You should have your Spanish notes already filled in. And these are your notes for France. Please make sure in room 11 that these are done by Thursday and room 7 that they are done for you by Friday. Mrs. P signing off.